inflation and stabilize the FX market. But let's gauge the expected impact on home development and ownership in 2024. Joining us for that conversation now is Tunde Balogun. He's the CEO of SmallSmall. Join us right here in the studio. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Ladi.
Yeah, so quite big jump there, big hikes we've seen for interest rates. And, globally, we did see interest rates actually go up, and we see how that impacted the mortgage markets in more developed economies. And now we're seeing their inflation starting to, hit their targets. That's the central banks in, most of those countries. But we know the interest rates are still quite high. But investors are expecting some kind of rate cut, in 2024. But back here in Nigeria, we're not really looking at rate cuts at this time because inflation is still very, very high. So talk to me about, paint a picture of how this is, the interest rates we've seen, this hike now, how is impacting growth, the real estate sector currently?
I mean, it's interesting because when you look at the economy of Nigeria or any part of the world, real estate is supposed to be a force, a major player,
right.
And that's why in most developed parts of the world, real estate is one of the top 3 contributors to the GDP. But we don't have that in Nigeria. It has never been that. And when you now think of the times that we are in, where the economic challenges are higher, you now begin to question that when are we going to get there as Nigeria, right? But one of the primary challenge that exists in the real estate market today is for most developers, they usually don't know what their start cost is and what their finished cost is. It will be a better situation if developers now, if they get into project or construction and they know this is what I'm starting with and this is what my project cost is going to be at the end of it, right? But when you have a situation where the cost of funds, there is increase in rates in terms of loans they've taken from banks, MPR is going up, the banks are coming back to them and saying that, oh, this rate has to go up as well. Then it begins to affect the cost of the finished product, which is the property itself. And that's why you see a lot of developers get into trouble because they've taken loans, rate has gone up, and they are struggling with the project. And they have to go back to the people that bought the project, even if they had sold at off plan, to say, oh, we need to adjust price. And these people also, the consumers or the buyers, they also don't want to give in to that. So you have a situation whereby, it's either the project is abandoned, bank is on the developer's case to get back their money. And if it's a mortgage company that is providing a loan to the mortgage bank in Nigeria, even the way they are structured, you look at how they provide mortgages, right? A lot of them don't want to engage in traditional mortgage. They are set up as mortgage bank, but when you look at the core of the business they are doing, they are not really doing mortgage. Mortgage is only about 5-10% of their books. And it's all because of this fluctuation, this instability. So it's a major problem.
Right. And when I look at, property prices, at this time, I believe somebody that was that entered a coma, say maybe 5 years ago or so, and, wakes up today to see the current prices, of properties in Nigeria. Because I remember at a time, you could get a detached house in, say, Chevron for about 60 million. There was a time.
Yes, you're right.
So far away.
Not too far away, yes.
Not too far away. Yeah. But now, in that same area, you're seeing detached houses for about 300 million, 200 million.
Or even way more than that.
Or even way more than that. Yeah. And I'm wondering, how can we even talk about affordability, at a time like this of housing?
So here's the thing, right? A few years ago, probably 2016, 2015, I used to say that 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom in Lekki Phase 1 should not be more than 15, 20 million. Because of where I was coming from, right? And I believe that these are starter homes where a young family or a young person that has a decent job should be able to use to start off their life before they move into a 4-bedroom or a 5-bedroom, right? But when you look at what 1 bedroom is selling for in Lekki Phase 1 today, which is around over 100 million, if it is ready built. If it is off plan, then you can get it probably like 70 million, 80 million, right? Then I used to say, like, it's ridiculous why we are selling 1 bedroom for like 30 million. But because I've now been a player in the space in Nigeria for the past few years, I've now understood and seen what the challenges are, right? It's very easy to blame developers and say that, oh, how come price was like 60 million in VGC, and now it's 300 million. But when you look at the dynamics, the factors, that's when you really understand the problem, right? One of the problem in Nigeria, and I continue to say this, is the biggest problem we have is distrust, and that distrust creates a lot of things. It fuels greed, and it fuels bad governance as well, right? Before, it will be greed that fuels distrust, right? But when distrust now becomes the norm, it now begins to, so someone that has integrity, someone that is not greedy, when you look at the societal norm and factors, then you question yourself that, does it make sense for me to have integrity in this country? Does it make sense for me not to be greedy in this country? And I'll tell you where I'm going with this point, right? I know a lot of people that once they earn their salary, they immediately change it to dollars. Before they even start spending, right? When you look at, you'll be like, are these people not patriotic about Nigeria? Are they not patriotic Nigerians, right? It's not because of that. It's because by the time they look at the realities of things, right, and what is going to cause them to do certain things, they realize that they will be at disadvantage if they keep their naira. But then, one of the things that is happening right now is what the current government is doing. I think what we should do as citizens is we can build on it. There has been a lot of distrust from government between ourselves, but I think we're heading the right direction now, and the citizens have a role to play as well. And the role we need to play is whereby we begin to, I'll give another example. A typical real estate transaction, right? You've signed an agreement. This is the price of the property. Then the developer comes back to you and say, oh, because of things that has gone up and all of that, right? I can't sell at this price anymore. Let's reevaluate the price, and the buyer is telling you, no, I can't do that, right? But now dollar is coming down, right? So it means that naira is gaining, right? So what then should happen? It also means that costs should go down, right? But because there's a something called replacement cost, a developer will tell you that for me to replace, even if I sell this property at a certain price, for me to be able to go back to market and buy it, there's a replacement cost. Therefore, I cannot buy it at the same price I bought it when I was building the old projects, right? So one of the advice I'll give to developers is that instead of you going back to sellers, right, to say, oh, I need to review my price, reevaluate my price, right, it should start from your agreement. And the type of purchase agreement you sign should say that should the economy go or cost go beyond a certain price point, then we can come back to the table and review things. We typically don't want that. But by so doing, your integrity, you might have that 100 buyers that want to buy from you, and only 10 are able to buy from you based on that policy that you've put in your agreement, right? But you're able to keep your integrity rather than someone saying that, oh, I don't want to pay the new price, and the developers on the other side also saying, oh, I'm not building anymore because you don't want to pay the new price, right? And then project comes to a standstill, right, which is what you see everywhere. So we have a role to play as citizens in how we engage each other, and that's what you see in marketplace as well, where everybody is saying that, oh, but dollar is going, things are changing now. Why has prices not changed, right? That greed element is where we need to interpret the reality of the economy into how we price products, right, as well. Where a market person knows that, oh, things are now changing in the market. I need to reprice to establish or to reflect the current market price, rather than trying to hold on to it and be greedy, right, and saying that, oh, I want to make as much money as possible. That is my take on the whole economy as a whole, right, whether from the government or also the citizen side. We all need to play our part in order to drive things forward in this country. Right. When you are patriotic and you're changing your money to dollars and all of that, you need to tell yourself, how is that benefiting my country? I can't be patriotic. I understand my economic realities, but at the same time, if me using naira to buy dollars just for me to keep and save is not helping this country, then where does my patriotism come to play?
Whoever is doing that, at this time is definitely
they are at a loss, yeah.
Right now. Yes. So I guess betting against the naira is quite risky right now, at this time, with what we're seeing with the interventions, by the central bank. But looking at, it just seems like you can't throw the word affordability, around at this time, the way things look. But what do you think are the solutions, right now to make homes, within reach, for the average Nigerian, at this time, even though we see inflation and the currency is strengthening, though, but still quite devalued, according to some people.
I think everything starts with goodwill from the government. Strong policy needs to come into place, and then enforcement of those policy also needs to come to play. I think there's willingness already from the government to. Here is one of the things I've observed over the years, right? That Nigeria's situation, it won't take angel dropping down to come and solve our problem, or people that have angelic heart to come and solve our problem. It's going to be a progression, and the progression I see is what I've seen in a lot of Asian countries, where you have people that come to power, even though they are going to use the power to benefit themselves, but they are also going to do the work. What we've seen in Nigeria over the years is where people that come into power that only benefit themselves, but they don't really do the work. So they benefit themselves 90% and only do 5-10% work. But what is going to happen is, which I am seeing with this government, is where they might benefit themselves, they might surround themselves with people that will benefit themselves, but I think there's willingness to see a change and to provide the change, right? That's policy come into play, right? The second part is, once you have policy in place, good policy and enforcement of those policies, things begin to normalize and stabilize, right? And how that will translate into developers, because developers are the suppliers. So they determine what comes into the market, and also a lot of other factors that are now playing in the market. So I'll come to the mortgage providers, right? So once that we have that stability, a developer can do his financials and say, this is what it will cost me to to start a 4-bedroom, and this is what it will cost me at the end of it, right? That stability is needed. Right now, we don't have that stability. And a lot of people, a lot of developers are in trouble because of that. And people wake up, developers wake up between yesterday and today and can change price 25%, 30%, just because that's the market reality, right? But that stability will bring about that change. On the mortgage side, or the people that are supposed to provide access to financing for end consumer to own homes, right? I think it should trickle down to them as well. The sad reality about the mortgage in Nigeria, again, we need to look at the policy that guides mortgage in Nigeria. I think the mortgage banks, they are not really interested in the business of providing mortgage.
Like their money is not patient at all.
Yeah, it's not. So, of course, you look at where do they get their funding from, even when they get a good funding source, right? Because of also they are not so confident in the economy and the realities of the economy. So they look at alternatives where to put that money and get return as quickly as possible. So stability of government policy, developers stability, and then policy also need to come into play in the mortgage space, whereby mortgage banks are actually providing mortgages to people at good rates, right? But I mean, that's where my company comes in right now, because we are providing alternative mortgage. We're not going to sit around to, wait until these changes happen, because in a lot of other climes as well, what you see is that where there are problems that are predominant in the market that is not really making the market drive as much as possible, which particularly in the area of housing, then you have alternative players that come into the market and bring about solution, because housing is a basic human need.
I'd like to see real 30-year mortgages, at some point, 20 years, instead of this really short mortgages that we see at this time. Too expensive, and also the rates you're paying for. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been talking to Tunde Balogun, CEO of SmallSmall.
Thank you, Ladi. It's good to be here.